Hey, welcome back to Sis Take Care. I am your host, Alexandria Barabin Harris, and I'm excited to be with you. So, welcome. Make sure that you like and subscribe so we can keep in touch and you can follow along with everything that's happening over here on the Sis Take Care channel. We've got so much to cover. Let's talk about sandwiches. And I know that that's going to sound like, what are we talking about? Like a Subway sandwich? Are we talking about Firehouse Subs? So, what's your favorite sandwich? Okay, is it the BLT? Is it the chicken sandwich from Chick Fil A? Sandwiches in general, but there's a specific sandwich that I think we need to talk about at Sis Take Care, and it is the multi generational caregiver sandwich. It's the sandwich generation, okay? So this is describing when a family member, is that true? This is describing when a person who is in the middle of their generations of their family are still raising their kids and now having to raise their parents. Okay. So it's like a dual caregiver role, and you're sandwiched right in between both sides of your family, and you're caregiving for both of them while also trying to get your own life and keep it intact. If it sounds like a lot of work, it is. Okay. Welcome to my world. So, this has been brought to my attention because caregiving for parents is a huge responsibility. And hey, sis, take care. STCs over 40. Our parents are getting up there in age, maybe even our grandparents. We're doing some caregiving for them, hospital visits, doctor's appointments, picking up medication, making sure they're okay. So sometimes that caregiving is peripheral. And so you're doing those, kinds of things. But it gets deeper. As they get older, are they going to live with you? Are they going to go to a facility? What's the plan? Right? Has that been even a conversation? And so if you're still working on getting your life and now you need to provide for them, and you have kids that you're also helping to build their life for, that sandwich can get kind of smashed up. And it leads to a concern about caregiver burnout. Now, caregiver burnout is when you love the person that you're caregiving, you are showing up for them, but you're struggling with the exhaustion and the mental load that it requires to pour into someone else all of the time. And as a caregiver, there's very little that's going to be returned, right? So this isn't quite the type of reciprocal relationship where you do for me and then I do for you and then you help me and then I help you, and we're, going back and forth, and then there's an exchange of that energy. It actually is, as a caregiver, pouring out into another person with the hope that it just helps them get through their time or get through their day. So, caregiving your child, if you're a parent like I am, it's just part of the job. It's every day, no matter what's going on. If it's a school day, if it's a work day, you're going to caregive your child. They need care every single day. And so you show up as a parent and you provide the care. But here's where it gets interesting when, for people like me, if you're a special needs parent and your child has extra additional things that they need done, it's not just get your lunches ready for school or help you get dressed or pick out your outfit. It's also other things like schedule therapy appointments, talk to the doctor about medication. It could be going to a specialist and having to wait weeks, if not months, to get an appointment for a problem that needs to be managed on a regular basis until we see the specialist. This is a part of caregiving that isn't talked about a lot unless you're in a special needs community for moms or a high needs community for kids that have additional needs that are just not the norm for everyone else, right? And there are a lot of us out there. Hey, girl, hey, my shout out to all my special needs moms who are working through how to balance making sure that they provide the experiences that every child deserves to grow healthy and strong, in addition to those extra needs that are a requirement or a priority for your child, right? And so that type of caregiving can absolutely lead to burnout. I think of a number of parents that I know who are amazing, loving parents, but are struggling in their own world, in their own mental health and physical health, because they haven't actually had the time to devote to their own care and well being, because they're so devoted to caring for their child and those high needs that come about. But then you couple that with a parent or even a spouse, right? Who needs additional care and is not able to help carry the load, but they need you to carry those additional responsibilities. And while we love that person and we are, in a lot of ways happy to do it, happy that I'm able to take time off and be there for you, happy that you're getting what you need, it takes a lot out of a good sis. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. I want to be honest. And I know firsthand, right? I know firsthand about this because in this season, daily, as entrepreneurs, my husband and I are balancing caring for our parents, caring for our daughter, caring for our businesses. Hello, our clients are like, we have great compassion for you, but we also still need these wonderful deliverables. Okay. We need the stuff to keep going. We need you to show up. And we're like, yep, we're right there. And also caring for our marriage, caring for ourselves, even taking time out to actually just have quiet time individually and getting rest, getting space that isn't about showing up for others every single moment of the day. Even though we do it a lot, it shouldn't negate us being able to have the opportunity to take care of ourselves. And I feel like that's a big message that God has been showing me and revealing to me, that the way that I think about care without that intervention, without looking and having the self awareness, and without God bringing it to my attention to say, pay attention, like, look at what you're doing here. Without that, I will be a person who understands, and this is a pattern that I've seen within my life, within my past relationships, when I was dating and friendships, and even some family members, and even work relationships can look this way, especially before I had a child myself. That my dynamic and understanding of how to best show up and take care of others is to sacrifice my care. I perceived that I was being a good family member, friend, daughter, employee if I sacrificed my well being to ensure that the mission or the cause or the care of someone else was actually happening. Now, that's a little twisted. If you have been thinking like me, like I used to think, I understand how you got there. Society tells us as people of faith, as women, even as Black folks, that our role is not only to serve, but to be subservient. And there's a difference between that, right? Subservience is actually to be beneath someone and to believe that others are inherently more valuable, more important than you. Not that you're more important than them or that you should think that, but what about of equal importance? What about we all are worthy? What about we all deserve love and care? What about that? No, subservience says I am indebted to you and beneath you. And even in some ways, I owe you, even if there's no clear debt. There's nothing that really suggests that that's true, but you can still operate like it. Have you found yourself doing that? Operating like your care is optional, but other people's care is mandatory? Welcome to Sis Take Care for Real, because that's one of the key issues that leads to caregiver burnout. Now, in order to do the kind of caregiving that is required in friendships, relationships, and even in parenting and taking care of elders, it is important to show up from a place of love. And if that's not where you're showing up, you need to go back to God. Go back to your prayer closet, friend. And that's what you need to be praying about immediately now. Okay. It's a necessary conversation that you need to have. Dear God, what the F is going on? I'm angry and mad. I don't feel like doing what you have, called me to do. What next? And then wait. Wait for you to get a word. For real. Get in that Bible, read some scriptures to talk about, faith and sacrifice and diligence, and like get some understanding, okay? So that you can come back to the table and pour from love. Let's talk about with parenting. When you're not leading from love and with love as a parent with your child, maybe the relationship with your child is strained. It's always tension, always fussing about what needs to be done and what they better represent you well, and I do all this for you and you better just, clean up those dishes for me. Like, this isn't tit for tat relationship. Did you do this? Then I'll give you something. You didn't do that, then I'll punish you for something. It's not meant to be that type of dynamic. And listen, let me tell you how I know. You might say, well, that sounds like that gentle parenting, soft parenting, conscious parenting crap, all that stuff. And it probably is. I have to be honest. I'm in all that stuff. I think that's some good things that have come out of, this new generation. Everything in the new generation, okay, is not great. I don't like all the new changes. I don't like new hip hop. Sometimes I'm like, what is that noise? Okay, I don't like all the fashion. I'm like, why? It's not cute. I don't get it. I don't like everything that's coming out new. I'm an 80s baby and the 90s raised me. Okay, shout out to my 90s folks who remember good music and remember having fun. So everything new is not great. But that particular element of parenting in a different way than maybe even how we were raised is so powerful to me. But forget all of that. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to think like that if you're a parent. If you're not a parent and you're like, it just sounds like you're treating kids, like these gentle little snowflakes, sure, whatever. We can have that conversation on another episode, I promise. But let me tell you how I know that what I'm saying at the core of it, without giving it a name, a fancy title, or some kind of theory, like just keeping it completely real. How I know that our parenting relationships should not be tit for tat. If you do this, then you do that type of dynamic. Let me tell you, really simple. God don't do it to us. How about that? Okay. God is the ultimate parent. God, the Father, right? And he does not engage in a tit for tat relationship with us. He does not say, you did something bad, therefore you get struck down, you are punished, and, get thee out of my life, I smite thee forever. That's not how he responds to us. And we make mistakes all the time. Are we punished for every single thing that happens? Absolutely not. Does God come in with correction and love and not judgment? Yes, he does. So that is our ultimate example. And in doing so, it lowers the level of resentment. It lowers the level of anger towards another being, a vulnerable child who's still learning how to navigate life, and recognizes they're not doing something to me as a parent. They're struggling in their own world. They're not giving me a hard time. They're having a hard time, just like we are. Some of us, listen, the over 40 crowd, I know when we were 25, we thought we'd have it completely together and figured out by this particular age, right? You 40 and up, and you look up and realize that maybe you mastered the things that you were working on at 25, but at 40, 50, 60, you've had new life circumstances that have brought you back down to a level where you are like in the Mario Brothers, do 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 do. It's time to start over. You got to go back to the start line. Maybe you mastered one level of life and you were able to, accomplish some really amazing things. You did things like got your degree, you have an amazing career, maybe you got married, had children, bought your first home, maybe bought an investment property, started a business, right? That's amazing. Here's also what happened too. Maybe you had miscarriage, like I have. Maybe you've had a divorce. You've had broken engagements, even, and never even made it to the altar. You got foreclosed on your home that you loved. You lost that amazing job that you worked so hard for. You started a degree and didn't finish it. All of those real things occur. You had kids and they required more than you thought that it was going to take. You had a family member pass away, somebody close to you, a parent, a sibling, and all those little plans, all those little formats and the way that you envision your life to be sort of in one or two circumstances have completely shifted and you had to learn to be a whole new person. Welcome to the world. And in that moment, you might be saying, okay, Alexandria, what does this have to do with caregiving? In that moment, in those moments, we are reminded that we're still having a hard time figuring out life. We're still working through things. And are we giving God a hard time when we don't listen the first time? When he gives us direction and we be like, I don't think that's what you said. Let me go pray about that again, okay? Because I'm looking for a different answer, right? Are we giving God a hard time or are we having a hard time? Are we still trying to figure out life? Yes, we are. Okay. And it's an ongoing journey. There's really, the destination is the journey, right? And so every time you experience something new, you are learning life again. And God is patient with me. And I pray that you feel that he's patient with you too. And so in that, we model the type of amazing parenting that we receive from the Lord. And that's important to remember because it needs to be what guides our hearts so that we can actually lead with love, okay? As parents with our children, right? But I think I just had like a Freudian slip right there. I said, as for our parents, and I meant our kids, but it also actually applies to how we treat our parents. And that can be complicated for a number of reasons. It can actually be that you had an amazing childhood and you had a parent who not only gave you everything they had and gave you the best that they had to offer, but they also did the work to say, hey, there are things I don't know about how to be a great parent here, and I'm going to learn about them. I'm going to learn from my parents. So I can be a better parent. I'm going to take parenting classes or even anger management classes to help me work through the feelings that come up for me. I know that my child doesn't deserve that. I want to be better for them. I want to kick addiction. I want to quit drinking or smoking because I want to be a better version of myself so that I can show up fully for my child. It's amazing. Shout out to the parents who experience that kind of parenting. But you could have also grown up in a very turbulent home where you were expected to perform, people please, expected to actually, you were what's called parentified. That's what they say in therapy, honey. When you actually were doing adult responsibilities, cooking and taking care of the family in ways that weren't communal, but that felt like pressure, that felt like you needed to show up in ways that didn't feel right for the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old, the 14-year-old person that you were. didn't feel quite equipped or prepared for that, but you were doing it already because that's what the family needed, right? Or maybe, for there some who were verbally abused or even more. And thinking about caregiving for the person who harmed you and leading from a place of love sounds like a really tall order. I want to assure you it is. It is a tall order. Let's not be in denial. Let's not split hairs about that. Let's keep it all the way real. It's hard. And there are also ways in which it's an opportunity to practice forgiveness. It's an opportunity to have some of those conversations, not for validation, not even to get your parent to see things your way or agree with you, but for that inner monologue that you have about your childhood, the conversations that you suppressed and felt like you had to hold close to your chest and couldn't speak, for them to have voice and for it to be heard in a way where you are now safe to say it. And that helps clear up so much of the type of resentment that can come from having to caregive a parent who wasn't always an amazing caregiver to you. Here's why that matters. We were talking about caregiver burnout, right? Caregiver burnout for elders in the senior space looks mostly like neglect. Neglect of seniors is at an all-time high. And we're not just talking about if their child is with them, their adult child is taking care of them. We're also talking about when they're in senior centers, the people who are actually hired to provide care for our elders are sometimes very neglectful. They may not physically harm them and put their hands on them and hurt them in those ways, but they will do things like wait to the absolute last minute to legally provide food for them, knowing that that person is hungry and hasn't eaten for hours. They will do things like leave them in their soiled clothing on purpose because they didn't like something that that person said or did. They will do things like take uh, their favorite item and remove it instead of leaving it near that person. If it's something like a favorite pair of socks or a robe that they really cling to, which is really important as seniors sometimes have memory loss and issues, and there's certain touchstones that matter to them a lot. And so these kinds of neglect are the ways that that resentment shows up. And when that is done from family members who are caregivers, it's because there's bitterness that's inside that is like trying to come out. It's another way of communicating the pain of I'm angry that I have to provide for you. Why didn't you figure this out? Why don't we have things in order? Where's the documents? Where's the signature here? What's going on? Why is this my life? How come I have to do this? I have to figure out my own self. And then they're crying or they're angry and yelling, even if it's an internal scream that only they can hear. That type of neglect is abuse. And so that caregiver burnout is important to address because it helps prevent abuse. That goes for our elders and also our kids. So taking care of yourself, making sure that you take the care that is needed for you as the caregiver is really, really important because it helps you stay healthy, grounded, releasing bitterness, unforgiveness, making room for you to be able to grieve the things of the past and to make room for the new things that are happening so that you can be good and the people that you care for, whether they're your children or the parents, they're going to be good as well. Their care, the quality of their care, actually rests on your ability to take care of yourself. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. I really hope that you'll make a comment and let me know how you're caregiving others and how you're also taking care of yourself. Because sometimes it feels like only one can happen and the other has to be neglected. What I want to welcome you to is in that sandwich generation. Okay, we don't want to get smashed. And to prevent us from being smashed, you have to be dedicated to taking care of you too. Peace. Bye, friend.